Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Alka Joshi, who's here to share with us the third book in the Jaipur Trilogy, The Perfumist of Paris. So Alka's debut book, The Henna Artist, was an immediate New York Times bestseller and a Reese Witherspoon pick. It has been translated into 29 languages and is currently in development at Netflix as a TV series. Alka's second book, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, was also a bestseller, and today we round out the series with The Perfumist of Paris. So welcome to the show, Alka Joshi.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I'm delighted to be back.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't wait for your next book to come out, and here it is. I'm so excited. I know people are loving this book. You've got to be excited as an author.
I am really excited. It gave me a chance once again to combine my two passions, my writing and also my love of art.
Well, you do it so well, and there's so much buzz out there about this book. I'd love for you to share a little bit about it with us. We don't go into spoilers, so no one has to worry about that, but just a little bit about this book so we can have an understanding of what is happening next.
In this book, we are in 1974 Paris, and I had known from the time I wrote The Henna Artist that Radha, Lakshmi's younger sister by 13 years, she was going to end up in Paris. She was going to fall in love with this Parisian along the Himalayas, and she was going to marry him, go back to Paris, and she was going to have these two daughters. So now we are actually in that environment in Paris. The other thing that happened to her is she found a passion, and her passion is perfumery. She wants to become a master perfumer. Now, this is something very natural to her because she was raised in India, and in India, you cannot live there without being introduced to so many different scents, whether it's in your food or in the environment or in the temple. There is always some kind of scent, some fragrance that is prominent. And so she has this already. She has a leg up on everybody because she can discern so many scents without having been taught. And so she is learning at the feet of a master perfumer, a woman named Delphine Silberman. And, from there, we pick up the story where she is having some issues loving her work, but also loving her family. And where can she find time for both when her husband really wants her to stay home?
I think so many women struggle with that today, just the balance of everything. It's like, do I go to work? Do I stay at home with the kids? How do we make this balance? And I love how you interwove that into this story.
Yeah, and a lot of people say to me, well, this novel could have been written today. And I said, yes, that is what is so disturbing about it. Because we're in 1974 and women were facing this same issue 50 years ago. So how far have we come? I want to start that conversation. I don't think people realize that, in the 70s when women were going to the workforce, there were a lot of divorces during that time. There was a sexual revolution going on. Everybody was finding themselves. And so women were going back to work and really sort of finding their passions or finding things they wanted to be experts in. So they were still struggling with that. They had children. Maybe they were divorced. Maybe they were still married, but they still needed to negotiate with the family about how much time they were spending outside of the home.
I know we've talked about this before about in the 70s. I mean, even then, women were having to get permission from their husbands to get a credit card or open a bank account. It just floors me to this day.
Absolutely. I the young people of today have no idea that that women were that restricted. I remember waiting a couple of years before I could get a credit card, and this was in 1980.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Just the changes that we've gone through in just such a short period of time. So the perfumist, I mean, okay. Let's kind of break this down a little bit. What kind of research did you do for this book? I'm just so floored by how detailed it is. It just pulls you right in like the last couple.
Yeah, and as you know, we authors are nerds, and we spend a lot of time in libraries, and then we spend a lot of time researching. And I love the research part because I get so involved, I get so engrossed in whatever it is I'm researching. I just want to really do a deep dive into it. And with every book, I get a chance to do that. So in this book, in The Perfumist of Paris, I needed to learn about perfume because I didn't know anything about it. So I was talking to Michael Edelstein, who is one of the producers of the Henna Artist TV series. And I was down in LA having lunch with him. I said, Michael, I need to learn about perfume. He said, oh, then you have to talk to my friend Anne Gottlieb in New York City. So I fly out to New York City. And Anne takes me around to all of the different people that she works with, master perfumers and large fragrance companies, because she's sort of the conduit. She's the go-between a client and the manufacturer or the creator of the perfume. So then I got a chance to interview master perfumers one-on-one and go to a fragrance lab where I had an idea of what a fragrance lab looks like and where Radha would actually be working. So how would she interact with different people? What would she wear? There's that lab coat. I didn't realize that. And, the way that everything would be displayed in front of her with the scent vials. And the people in New York City said, you need to go to Paris also and talk to the master perfumers there, because Paris is known as the perfume capital of the world now. So I fly to Paris. I have all these appointments where I talk to master perfumers and boutique perfumers. And they said, now you need to go to Grasse, because that is where perfume is bottled and it's compounded into the large vats that we need it in order to sell, 30,000 bottles, 40,000 bottles, whatever it is. Then those people said, go to Lisbon. There are these two people there that you need to meet with. And one of those people was just full of great information about the 1970s because he happens to be 85 years old now. And his family had been in the fragrance industry for 2 centuries. And he knows so much about the people in it. He was in Paris in the 1970s. So he told me a lot of anecdotes about folks in the industry at that time, including this one. He said there was a woman named Sophia Grossman who is well known in the perfume circles today. She smoked like a chimney, and she still created some of the most iconic perfumes that we find today. And I said, well, how can anybody who smokes create perfume? Because I always thought that smoking sort of ruined your sense of smell. And he said, well, I don't know, but first of all, we all smoked in the 1970s. I don't know if you remember that, Marianne, but everybody smoked back then. And also, he said, master perfumers only need to memorize the scents in their brain. They don't actually need to be sniffing vials in order to create perfume. They have been doing it for so long, and they have trained their nose. It's like a muscle. They have trained their nose to discern so many different scents that when they develop a formula, it is in their brain, and they think, okay, 0.02 milligrams of sandalwood oil, and I want 0.03 grams of, cinnamon. So they develop all of that in their brain. Then they send it down to the fragrance lab. And those guys, like Radha in The Perfumist of Paris, are actually going to blend that formula together for them, take it back to them, and then they will decide whether they want to change it. This goes back and forth between the lab and the master perfumer, and then they're able to create this fabulous scent. So every place I went, I learned something new. And many of those anecdotes that people told me, many of the sort of instruction about perfume they told me, all got woven into The Perfumist of Paris. So you'll notice Radha has a boss named Delphine Silbermann, and she is a model based, or I should say, she's modeled on Sophia Grossman, because Delphine also smokes like a chimney, but she's very formidable. She has made her way to the top, which was very difficult for a woman in the perfume industry to do in the 1970s. So these are the little things that I just love. I love researching them, and then I love figuring out how I can put them in the narrative somehow.
You always have the most clever way of bringing a story about, and I've always appreciated that about your book. And I have to be so careful not to overshare about them because
Oh,
they're books you could get really excited about. I mean, you pick them up, you don't want to put them down.
that
But
is so lovely to hear. One of the other things that I had to research, I just want to get it in there. I don't want to just interrupt you, but I loved the painting of Olympia that I had a chance to put in here, because in 1974, when the novel takes place, my parents took me to Europe for the first time. I was 16 years old, and we went to the Jeu de Paume Museum, and we saw the Impressionist paintings there. And this was one of the paintings that was hanging there. And it was so different from all the other paintings because this woman in the painting Olympia, she is looking straight at us in a way that is different from all the other women. Some of the women are looking at us in a coquettish way. Some of the women are, looking away from the painting as if there's something else that's attracting their attention. But Olympia was the only one who really is challenging the viewer, like, you have something to say to me, like that. So I remembered her, and I wanted to think about all of these other women in paintings who have not been remembered. There are so many of these models in the paintings who had full lives and who really deserved to be recognized for being the muse, for being the people who also contributed to the success of a painting. But we only remember the painter at this point. And so this gave me a chance to do more of my female power. Let's get the women in these paintings also in the spotlight.
I just love that. I understand that you've been doing some collaborations in regards to some perfume. I'd love for you to share on that.
Well, one of the experts whom I spoke to, his name is Paul Austin. He gave me a lot of good information, and he referred me to master perfumers whom I interviewed. So when the Perfumist of Paris went off to the printer, I had some time before it would be released. I called up Paul and I said, hey, I know that you were, at the time I spoke to you, building a perfume brand with the major ingredients being from India. And I was wondering if you might want to collaborate on something. And he said, yes, I would love that. So he and his team put together these discovery sets, which have 7 little vials of each of their fragrances, beautifully packaged. And he offered 20 of those for every stop on my book tour for the Perfumist of Paris. And it was so generous of him. And the boxes were a big hit. This discovery set was a big hit. And they even matched the colors on the discovery set to that beautiful pink on the cover of the book. So you just never know where your research is going to lead you, and how many friends I have made throughout my research journeys for all 3 books.
It's been such an adventure, I am sure. I can't even begin to imagine all the great adventures you've had just going through all this. And what would you say, in writing The Perfumist of Paris has been like one of the more interesting discoveries that you've made?
For me, I think the key discovery in the book, and one that was delightful to me, was that some of the major ingredients that go into the perfumes of yesteryear and also of today are found in India and in the Indian subcontinent. I had no idea, because I had always heard that France is the perfume capital of the world. So I assumed that everything perfume related originated from France, and it did not. So hundreds of years ago, when the Europeans would come across the Asian spice routes and silk routes, what they were looking for were key ingredients for perfumery, as well as for other kinds of tasks. But they were looking for things like cinnamon and clove and tuberose and rose and sandalwood, all of these ingredients that actually make beautiful perfumes. They would take those ingredients back to France, and the French perfumeries would pay them to buy this. Now, at some point, the raw ingredients became too expensive for the fragrance companies, and they started planting some of these ingredients in Grasse, which has a temperate climate, and parts of it really resemble what Indian climate is like. So as they developed their own plants, the fragrance actually changed a little bit. Some of their fragrances didn't smell the same anymore because, as you can imagine, climate in a specific area has a lot to do with how a plant develops and exudes a certain fragrance. So now many of the perfumes that we buy today are largely made with chemical or synthetic ingredients. And that just is because the perfume industry is $30 billion or something like that. And there isn't enough raw ingredient that we can put in fragrances to meet the demand. So, those perfumes of yesteryear, they're just totally different. I've had readers say to me that the perfumes they used to buy, let's say 30 years ago, they don't smell the same anymore on them. And either their body chemistry has changed or the actual ingredients have changed. And I think it's the latter.
It's just amazing what's uncovered when you do this type of research for a book. Now, is the series being optioned for a film?
We've had some requests. We've had requests, and I refer them all to my screen agent in Los Angeles. I think it would make an amazing series because half of it is in Paris, and then half of it could be in India because Radha does go to Agra to find this mysterious scent that makes her formula complete for this Olympia project. So I actually think it would be a beautiful series, and we could do so many attendant marketing sort of projects out of it. There's so many fragrance companies that I think would love to be a part of this project in some way. It would be just a blast. Can you imagine? I am going to now start thinking about who's going to play Radha.
All those are good problems to have, you know? Well, and not to talk about also all the great cooking because you have recipes that you share that are just amazing.
There is one recipe in there for rose jam. And my mother used to make this. You make it with real rose petals. Rose is a flavor ingredient that is very popular in India. We put it in a drink. We put it in our sweets. A lot of people put it in, let's say, their chicken curry because it just has that sort of intoxicating fragrance. The Kama Sutra says that in order to encourage the act of lovemaking, you must perfume your entire house with roses. So my mother used to make this rose jam. It is very popular in India. And you collect all these rose petals. You have to put sugar in there, and you want to keep it refrigerated or out in the open for quite a while so that the roses kind of have a chance to melt. And then it makes this amazing rose jam that will be gone in a day because nobody can stop eating it.
Oh, I bet. I bet. All that sounds so great. Well, and from this book series that you've put together, what do you want readers to take away from your books?
I do want people to take away the fact that we need to support women in all of their endeavors, whether it is building a family, whether it is building a career, whether it is just building a life for themselves that they really think will bring them happiness. I don't think we do enough of that currently. So I want people to walk away thinking, women like Radha, they deserve our support. And what can we do to help them? I also think this book is about female empowerment. When women finally make a decision about what it is they want from this life, they really should be allowed and they deserve to go out and get it. And I don't think anybody should stop them from doing that. That is one of the major themes of all of my books. I think I have been given this life. I'm so privileged to have had a life where I make my own decisions about everything. And nobody stops me. No, nobody can stop me at this point because I am so stubborn in, the way I want to do things. But I think that women today still deserve and will continue to deserve every chance at self-actualization that they can, that they come across. Another thing that I do want people to walk away with, and with every book also I do this, is to give India its due for the contributions she has made to the world. And in The Perfumist of Paris, that is those beautiful ingredients that go into scents and now are being reproduced in a synthetic way. But I want India to be recognized also as a perfume capital of this world, because French fragrance companies still buy so many essential oils from India for their scents. And so those three things, I think, if anybody walks away with those, that would be terrific. I have readers right now, by the way, who do write to me and they say, I have never been as conscious of scents in my environment as I am now after reading The Perfumist of Paris. So now I walk into a place and I go, let me see if I can figure out what I am smelling here. And then, of course, they are now more conscious of maybe a perfume they might want to wear on their bodies that says, this is who I am.
Such awareness, just, coming from reading a book series, I think is such a powerful thing. And, congratulations to you, because you definitely are making a huge wave.
Well, thank you so much. Women all over the world write to me. Oh, and by the way, some men do too, about the Perfumist of Paris, because men also use fragrances. Think about the body sprays. Think about the shaving cream that they use. Think about the shampoo. Fragrances go into every part of our lives, whether we use them for the home, whether we use them for our bodies or our environments. Fragrances are a big part of our lives. And as you know, Marianne, fragrances are about memory. So we smell something and it takes us right back to when we were 5 years old and eating ice cream with our grandparent. Or, it takes us right back to the very first car that we owned and what it smelled like, because maybe it was a used car and it came with the smells of the previous owner. There are so many ways in which scent brings us closer to our past. And some of the memories are happy and some of them are sad, but they are us. And so I think scents are us.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about the perfume party? I know you have a recipe for that, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes. I think that a lot of book clubs, when they are reading this book, would have a lot of fun if they put together a perfume party. So I decided to create the recipe for it. And it's very simple ingredients, and everybody will walk away with a scent and in a little bottle that they can use either as a memento of this time that everybody had together at the book club, or just something that they use every day. So it is not only practical, but it's also a fun thing that everybody gets to explore. And people tell me that until they did a perfume party for their book club, they did not realize the scents that they liked. They're going to go around and sniff these various vials, and then they will know, oh, you know what? I love Lily of the Valley, but I really don't like bergamot. I'm going to use one in the perfume and one not. So it gives them a chance to really know themselves a little bit better and why they like a certain fragrance.
So, Alka, what's next for you? I know you're always working on something amazing. Do you have anything you could share with us?
I am working on a novel that is loosely based on the Indian painter Amrita Sher Gill. She lived in the 1920s, 30s, and died in 1941. She was only 28 years old, but she was a formidable presence. She was very outspoken. She was a feminist. She really believed in just doing whatever she wanted and sleeping with anything that moved. So I found her fascinating. And she has largely been forgotten by anybody who is not Indian. But I think that she really deserves a spotlight. She was one of the first Indian women to be recognized by the Paris Salon. And that was when she was only 16 years old. So she, after that, went to the south of India and created a lot of paintings that just encompass the ordinary lives of villagers, their day-to-day things that they're doing. Nothing like palaces or fancy dinners or anything like that. It was just all about simple people doing simple things. And those are, I think, some of her best work. So I wanted to bring her to everybody's attention. And once more, here is a woman who is exemplifying my idea that India deserves to be recognized for her contribution to the world. I think Amrita was unique in the sense that she was half Hungarian and half Indian. So her Hungarian identity was a big part of her life when she was growing up in Budapest. But as time went on, she actually identified way more with her Indian heritage. When she was in Paris studying painting, she said, Picasso belongs to Paris, but I belong to India. So I think that's wonderful that she was able to find her heritage in one of her half identities.
Oh my goodness. I cannot wait to hear about that one. You'll have to keep me posted when it's ready to be released. And I know books are such a journey. And I'm so glad that we got to spend this time together talking about The Perfumist of Paris.
Thank you, Marianne. This was just lovely.
Well, thank you, Alka. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Perfumist of Paris. The Perfumist of Paris is available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If they don't have it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. If you'd like to connect with Alka, please visit her website at alkajoshi.com. Learn more about the Jaipur Trilogy, pick up copies of her books, and if you have a book club, make sure to reach out to her to see if she can talk there. Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Looking for a page-turner? Cozy up to a fantasy adventure romance trilogy with The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper by Mary Kay Savarese. The second novel in the Star Writers trilogy, The Star Writers Club, is coming soon. Take the journey. Connect with Mary at www.maryksavarese.com. Her books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie bookstores.
With Breath Hub, you'll experience the transformative power of breath as it harmonizes your body, mind, and spirit. Recommended by experts in fitness, sports, psychology, and medicine. Meet the scientific way of being well. Breath Hub. Breathe better, live better.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, D-E-P-T, coffee.com.
The book Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, authored by Danny Carroll, is on sale at Amazon now. Licensed psychologist and psychotherapist Tessa Antia-John-Guerra commented, "This is one of the most empowering books on the topic of cancer you will ever read." Award-winning author T.L. Needham commented, "This recommended book can be understood by anyone seeking answers, hope, and alternatives to a terminal diagnosis. Buy it now on Amazon.com.
Pandemonium. Fast forward 20 years. A U.S. president seizes control of all U.S. missiles, the power grid, the banking system, and every computer in America as he hides in an underground bunker. Pandemonium, a captivating sci-fi thriller where a hidden war, psychics, aliens, artificial intelligence, and transcendental love collide with the latest media technology. Pandemonium, live to all devices. Get your copy on paperback or digital. Free sample at getpsychic.org.
Hello, Dr. Cutler here. Do you experience bloating, heartburn, food craving, bowel irregularity, food sensitivities, weight issues? If you do not digest your food, you may be deficient in macronutrients, which your body needs for optimal health. DrEllenCutler.com teaches that this is an enzyme deficiency. I believe the most important supplement is a full-spectrum digestive enzyme, Dr. Ellen's Way Digestive Enzymes. Hear more about it at DrEllenCutler.com.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.